Okay, so the topic is navigating the inventiveness hurdle in the patent applications. Though it is a very small aspect of the whole patent scenario, but a very important aspect in the sense because many of our rejections or the maximum queries in our FERs examinations, it is based on the inventiveness issues. So let's see. First, we'll just brief about what is a patent. I mean, any invention, any technology per se. For example, this watch which I am wearing, or any machine which you can see near yours, nearby yours, it is an invention in itself, any technological advance, any process which is giving a new thing. Okay. So what a patent is giving, it is giving the exclusive right to the inventor. Essentially, it is a legal document which can be used for any documentation purposes. I mean, many times the query which we feel is why to file a patent. We have published the invention, or we can directly commercialize or take it to the market. Then what is the need for a patent? Because till date, it requires time to for filing, prosecution, and the grant of a patent. And yes, money is involved too. The government has made certain changes to the patent fees with respect to the academic institutions, but then too, it involves a cost. Then it can be sold, licensed. But the main thing about a patent is that the tenure is only 20 years, whereas for the other IPs, be it a trademark or a copyright, the time is not limited. Okay, that is extendable for trademarks person. And then it is a territorial right, means a patent granted in India, it is only for the Indian geographical location only. There is no term such as a world patent or a global patent. I mean, I've just gone through the brochure, and there are other eminent speakers who will be taking this technical test. Okay, so these are the technical territorial rights. Now, why should we go for a patent? The essential reason of getting a patent is that we are actually securing the invention, we are securing the invention for unnecessary exploitation from unauthorized usage of the invention by other people. Then once invention is there, the patent has been filed, it has been granted, we can go for the commercialization, investment purposes, it is there. For startups, for businesses, for enhancing the business aspects, we can take legal action against the infringers, and then we can claim the revenue. So essentially that is why we go for a patent, even though the invention is there can be in terms of publication, in terms of commercialization, but then people take pains and then getting their patents done. Now, what is the theoretical definition of the patent with respect to the Indian patent? It is any machine, any manufacture, any process, okay, or any composition of matter for say, I mean anything which we are making in the lab, that can be a formulation, any process, new process of making that formulation, okay, that can be patented. It could be as small as an oil pen, and as big as could be a rocket engine, or the engine, or the structural aspects of a car. So it could be ways apart. I mean, as small and as big, or a rocket science you can see. Now the main three characteristics a patent should have is it should be novel, it should be non-obvious, and it should have beauty. Where novelty is, it should be new. Means it should not have been previously known. For example, we can say that we have made a formulation which is altogether a new formulation per se. No one has thought about this formulation, but it is not having any applicability. Okay, new invention is there, formulation is there, but that formulation, the usage of that formulation is not there in India. For example, we say. So then there we do not have any industrial application of that invention. Being new, being a significant invention, it is not having any industrial applicability, so it will not be patentable in India. Third point is inventiveness or non-obvious. Okay, meaning that It is not an obvious invention. Obvious means that we are not combining two or three things together and coming up that invention. Okay, like for in one product it is A plus B, in the second one it is B plus C, and in the third one it is C plus D. So A plus B plus C plus D, if that is what our invention is, and that is, we can just thought about that invention. That makes it obvious. We'll take this point in detail with different examples and how we can just surpass that inventive step issue. Now this is a very basic example of how we can surpass the non-obviousness thing. Initially cameras were separate and phones were separate. Now the revolution which came was that the mobile phones were, it was integrated with the cameras, and now I guess we take good phones on the basis of a very good camera features or the audio features. So other than only the taking calls and calling people, phone is now serving a purpose of a very good camera. Right? So that was a non-obvious thing which people could thought of. Now after this, if we have surpassed these three basic criteria of novelty, inventiveness and industrial applicability, then there comes this few invention which is not patentable. Not patentable in India per se, if it is falling in these categories, in which we can say like we have discovered a new thing. Okay, you have discovered a new microbe. A new strain has been discovered. Now that is a discovery. We cannot patent it. That can be reported, that can be published. From the patent publication point of view, that could be a very groundbreaking discovery. But from the patent perspective, that is only a discovery with respect to the material or living non-living substance, for example, which is present in nature but has not been discovered initially. But if we are using any property of that microbe or that substance, that can be patented. Section 3D with respect to the therapeutic efficacy means aspirin, which has been used for headache, then doctors started using it for the blood thinning, for eposprin was given for the blood thinning properties. So that was the new usage of the known substance. We can report that, we can publish that, but we cannot patent that in it. Okay. Then admixture. Admixture is mixing the two things which are known separately, which are existing separately. If we are mixing the two things, for example, a herbal composition has been made. Okay, and that herbal composition, we have made two similar entities together, and then we are saying that initially turmeric was known separately and clove was known separately. But then we are mixing the two. And the property which we are saying is, for example, and this is very vague, but for example, it is for the this anti wound healing properties. For example, if we are saying we are mixing the two, but if adding clove is not enhancing its therapeutic efficacy, then that is not patent. It is not giving any synergistic effect, then it is not patentable as per section 3E, and not efficacy, then 3D. Any new method of horticulture, agriculture means which is doable in the lab, that is not patented. Method of treatment. 3J is very important with respect to the biotechnology inventions, where we are, for example, we have made a mutation in any plant or animal tissue. Okay, we cannot patent that plant or animal. That process of making that mutation or that mutation is giving any new function, that thing can be patented. Okay, we cannot patent the plant or animal as a whole. Microorganism, any mutation in the microorganism or any changes which we have introduced, that process can be patented, but not the microorganism as a whole. The microorganisms are always, the cultures are always submitted in the emphasis. Then the traditional knowledge-based inventions, which makes it many times obvious. That is also one of the reasons that the inventiveness issues are there in the herbal compositions. Okay, because somehow we can associate it with the ancient knowledge which we have in our homes. Now let's discuss what is inventive step. Okay, inventive step as per the section 2J of Indian Patent Act, it is a feature. Now how it is different from the novelty aspect? It is different from the novelty aspect is that it is a technical advance. Novelty means that we have made an invention which is a new thing, which is a totally new thing. But inventive step is an innovation. Innovation in terms of what has been already existing there. So what we have done is we have made a technical advance to an existing knowledge, or we have made it economic significant. Means some composition had already been there. Okay, a composition, for example, of this cetirizine had already been there since ages. But in the cetirizine also we can see different salt compositions are there, which could be in terms of technical advance in terms of one was having effect at 1 hour and the other was having an effect at 10 minutes. So that was the technical advance in the composition. Second is economic significance. One was the 10 rupees strip and the other was a 5 rupees strip. So that was the economic significance. Okay, so these type of things in an existing composition, in an existing process, if we are making any technical advance or we are making any economic significance to the process or the composition, that is the inventive step of that invention. Means that is not obvious to the person skilled in art. Now let's see who is the person skilled in art. When we talk to the attorneys, many times we talk to attorneys, so they say posita. Posita is person having ordinary skill in that. Means you being a researcher, you are working in a microbiology lab. You know that how a clothes plating is done. If we are culturing the microbe and then we are centrifuging it and taking the soup. So the soup is having certain molecules which are extracted from the microbe. Okay, so that is having biological activities there in the soup. So that is the skill that person is having. So maybe you are working with microbe A, but the other person is saying that I have worked with microbe B and then I have designed a process in which I could find out that the soup was having microbial activity. So that makes it very obvious to you, no? That when same genus is having this type of activity, then a different microbe of the same genus or the same family will also be having the same activity or on the similar lines. So that makes it obvious. So the person who is doing it, that is the person having ordinary skill in the art or the positive. Okay, so the person who is having that skill, and I being a researcher, if I can make out that this is how this process is done. So similarly, I can isolate a protein by a certain method. So I know the other protein can also be isolated by a similar method because that is how this is the process specifically for these small proteins. Right? So that is the obvious thing. Or many times we look at obviousness by looking at the prior art, what has been already reported in the literature. So that is also how it tells us about. Or looking at the problem that I mentioned solves. Like in different jurisdictions, they look at inventive steps in different ways. Like in EP, European Union, they look at the inventive steps in the format. They look at what the problem is. Now the solution which we are giving. Are we able to write that the solution for that problem? Okay, so if the invention is able to solve the problem which had been there, then that makes it inventive. That makes it non-obvious. Right? Then it is by looking at the skill in the relevant field. If the skill is known, for example, like I said, that it should be technically significant if we are looking, then also it makes it non-obvious. Like I said, that different jurisdictions have different standards with respect to inventiveness, how they look at it. In US, it should not be obvious to that is the positive thing which we have discussed. In EU, European Union, it is based on the problem solution approach. So we always see at the invention, we always perceive the invention from the problem solution approach. Whether we look at it why we are this invention is inventive. This invention because there was a problem and we are able to solve it. And in India, it is a section 2J which we had already discussed. Now, in life sciences, inventiveness plays a very important role because we are using a number of gene sequences, pharmaceutical compounds are there, the natural substances there, biotechnological methods are there, which could be many times similar, but in the same thing, we could arrive at a different or a new solution also. So, these are very important. There are small things which can take care of or which can make it obvious or make it non-obvious. And then there are many ethical and regulatory considerations also, but then we will not take it as of now. Like for example, this was a very famous case study of Novartis patent, in which what they did was, Novartis launched a product called imatinib missile. Okay, then they further, they had gone for a patent in India. It was already patented in US in the name of Gliver. Now in India, what they said was that they had introduced some changes in the soil. Right? Now the changes in the soil were, as per the Indian Patent Act, the changes in the soil was very obvious. Okay, because basic salt and the one addition of any functional group, that was not making any significant changes. There was no increase in the therapeutic efficacy. Okay, so that is how this patent was rejected. So this was a very famous case study with respect to the inventiveness and the therapeutic efficacy. Okay. Like for microorganisms, like I said that we have done any mutations in any microorganism, or one microorganism, it has been used for making curd. Okay, then for same microorganism, if we are arriving at a new property, then that makes it that property is not patented. But by using that property, if we are arriving at a new product per se, then that process of doing that, or that product per se, which is the final composition is, that is patented. So, or for example, one genus, it has been used for a biosurfactant activity. Now from the same family, if we are using this and we are saying that we are adding one more additive to it, and then it has not been reported earlier. Okay, or one biosurfactant, it is having activity in the soil, and I have added a compound by which it is having a biosurfactant activity in the water also. So I should go for a patent. Until unless it is a very significant change, it is not patentable, because it is obvious. Something which is working in soil can work in water also, until and unless the mode of action is different. Until and unless the way it is extracting or it is giving the data is different, right? So inventiveness could be an issue or could not be an issue based on how we are arriving at the result. So there is a very fine line of difference, but then we have to very minutely look at it. We have to generate the data for that, and then we have to work. Like for this turmeric patent, turmeric patent which had been earlier granted in US, then later on the CSA had opposed it and then it was cancelled. Cancelled on the basis of the prior act, means it was traditionally known in India. So they said that it was lacking the inventiveness, because since it was already known. Same was for the neem. Neem properties, the properties of neem had been known for these biopesticidal properties. In European Union, the patent has been granted for the same, and when it was opposed, so the EP revoked this patent for the lack of inventiveness. Right? What is meaning? If it has having biopesticidal activity in one crop or one area, so it is obvious that it would be having the similar properties, similar activities in the different crop, if it is in the similar length. Or any significant change could be that we have isolated active compound, and then we have changed the properties in a way that its potency is more, or it is less leaching out into the soil, less leaching out in the water, then that could have been a novel aspect. That would have taken care of the obviousness. Now these are a few inventions which had patent applications which had been rejected on the basis of inventiveness, that there was no inventiveness in the application. For example, this was a herbal composition for cognitive enhancement and neurodegenerative disorder management. Now in this invention, what the inventors have done was, they have made phytochemical, they have made use of the concentration of phytochemicals present in the plant extract, and then they made a composition. So they were claiming that the composition was invented. Now the patent office rejected it on the, and they gave the arguments that extraction of plant part, extraction of components, plant extracts, it is already a known process. Okay, but how we are doing it, until that is a very significant change, or taking the plant, grinding it, taking extract, then making diluting it in a alcohol-based system. So these are the standard process which people are using since ages. So that is a known prior. Okay, and then phytochemicals are present. It is also inherent to that plant. So that is not something new which has been done. So the patent office said that asserting that the concentration through HPLC is done, that is also a well-known technique. So there was nothing new in the composition as well as in the process. So thus it is not having any inventiveness. Now this is one patent invention in which this hearing I had attended, and though it has not been drafted by us, but in this was a machine patent. Okay, in this invention, what they had done, they had made a machine for making the nursery bed for the rice seedling. So what the inventor was doing, they were having a machine in which they had a polythene roll at the base. So when the machine was running, the polythene roll will be spread on the ground. Then there would be soil, and then it would be rice seeds would be added on the top, so that small seedlings can be prepared. Okay, so that is how the invention was. So the technical features were, soil loader was taking the soil from the field and transferring on the plate. Then there was a furrow was made. Then on that furrow soil was added. Then it was the mixture of soil and seed was falling on the polythene. So that is how the invention was. It was nicely drafted application. But the patent office rejected it on the lack of inventiveness. So what they said was, they had cited 5 prior arts. As per them, the one of the prior art even was making a rice, a polythene bread. Second one was making soil plus seed was added. In the third, seed was added at a regular distance. So they say that if we mix the three, we are arriving at this solution. Okay. Though novelty was not an issue because all the three things was not available together in any of the inventions. But seed and soil was in one invention, seed plus fertilizer was in another invention, soil bed was in one of the inventions. So this is how they reject it. This is what I am trying to say, that these are the basis when we are looking at inventiveness. So in research, many times what we are doing is we are researching the thing in terms of doing it in another system. Something which had been known in bacterial system might not be known in fungal system. So that is a research that can be published. But a gene which is having the activity in bacteria, it is expected that it would be having the similar type of activity in a fungal system also. So that could be an obvious thing until unless changes have been introduced, change in process have been introduced, right? So that we can publish, but that we cannot patent. Only by changing the system does not make it inventive. But there is one more example, I'll take it in the next few slides, in which changing the system also made it inventive. So let's see how we determine the inventiveness. Now determining the inventiveness in any invention is, that it should not be obvious or there should be no natural suggestion of what has been previously. Like I said, one which was already working in, for example, one extract of neem is having biopesticidal activity. So then we have extracted from the leaves and the other person is extracting from the stem. So that makes it obvious. What might not be obvious is that the stem is having more potency as compared to the leaf. Okay, then that has to be looked at. Second is that it is not obvious to the skilled person, like skilled person means the person who is working in the field concerned, that he or she can be make the invention subject to the, if they see the solution, they can think about, yes, this is doable. This is not something very out of the box. Okay, so these are the tests how we determine the inventive step in any invention. And how we can overcome these objections is, so basic strategy is we should always have the technical improvements, we should have the data, because on the basis of that data only any arguments can be prepared. Then commercial success, like I said, economic significance has to be there, or at the last, the claims can be amended to emphasize the novel aspects of the invention. Now this is what one example which I was talking about, that changing the system also made it a patentable invention. It didn't take away the inventive step. Now this is a very famous this CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing patent which was first filed by the University of California. They worked on the prokaryotic system. They filed it first, but then the Broad Institute, they were simultaneously working on the similar lines, but then they were working on the eukaryotic system. They had also filed it at the same time, but they had gone for the expedited way, and then their patent was granted first. Now what happened was, this University of California had appealed, but the patent trial and appellate court, they ruled in favor of the Broad Institute, saying that in eukaryotic cell, what the CRISPR done in the eukaryotic cell was an inventive step over the prokaryotic application. Because the way it was doing it, the changes it was making, that made it significant. Okay. So the importance of experimental data in this invention, in this case, it proved the non-obviousness. So this is how we can bypass that inventiveness issue in the patent applications or our invention. Now this is the Bristol Myers versus Teva, in which the BMS was having the patent for the anticoagulant drug. Then it was challenged by the another pharma giant, making that the changes in the formulations were obvious. Like I said that there could be very minor changes which could make it obvious. But the court gave the arguments that it was unexpected advantages in the bioavailability and stability. Right? So the therapeutic efficacy, the technical advancement was significant. So even small modifications can be inventive if there are unexpected results. Right? So this is what we are trying to say, that non-obviousness can be supported by unexpected pharmacokinetic properties. So we have to look on, we should not just overlook our inventions on thinking that this could be an obvious thing. No, there could be significant results. So what are the take home is that since it is a very key requirement for patentability, so it should not be obvious. And in life sciences, we should always look at the prior art and the natural discoveries. Now, how inventiveness is crucial is because it is distinguishing invention from innovation. Invention is making anything new, the novelty aspect, and innovation is making significant changes to what is already present. Right? So, innovation is which is having inventive step. So it should be both novel and non-obvious to be a patentable invention. And how we can strengthen those applications? By conducting thorough prior art searches, we can draft the technical details. Patent claim should be drafted minutely. Experimental data is very important in terms of all the patent applications, because these days we cannot add the new data at a later time. Okay, any data, whatever, in patent publications, it is always possible to add provide new data at any point of refinement. But in patents, it is difficult. So always, whatever data is there, it should be provided. We should collect as much as supporting data what is available. So that is all with respect to the invention. So any queries, please.